Hello, and welcome back to Jesus' Birth. Where is the Christmas gift?
I'm your host, Joy Pearl.
And I'm your host, Immanuel. All right. This is the Gospel Breakdown. All right. So we are joined today with the Reverend Lenny Duncan.
How are you? What's going on? Joy, Amani, what's happening?
We're just here to talk about Jesus, tradition, all the stuff we love about Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that what y'all like about Christmas? I like presents. I thought we were going to talk about presents.
Nah, we have to talk about like the theological perspective.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, if y'all want to do that, do I get a present at the end?
Yes, you will.
Okay, cool. These series of things happen. Now, some people say it's part of the miracles of God. I say that's part of the miracles of life. I mean, you think about how your life has been just seconds and inches, where if you'd have went the wrong way or done the wrong thing, something terrible could have happened to you. And I'm sure even at both of your like tender ages, you could think of one or two incidents where you're like, wow, if I would have done this or that, something really bad would have happened to me, right? And I don't think the biblical narrative is trying to make Jesus seem miraculous. I think what the biblical narrative is trying to do is make our lives seem miraculous and be like, wow, look, even God went through all this when he came. Well, what must it be like for you, right? What must it be like for you? It's important to note in all these birth narratives is that Jesus enters an already moving scene with John and John's family and John's ministry getting ready to start, with someone named Bar Jesus who has a ministry 15 years before Jesus and tries to have a popular revolution. I mean, all of these things are going on, and then you have everyone arguing about what is not just Judaism, but the average first century market at Jesus's time was full of hundreds of different priests for hundreds of different gods doing miracles all day long, whether miracles like this was a very vibrant world that Jesus is stepping into. Jesus grew up in Galilee. That means like he probably went to Caesarea Philippi. That means he probably spoke like 4 languages by the time he turned 15, like most people in that time, which means he could not only speak Koine Greek, he was well aware of what Greek culture was. He was well aware of what other cultures believed. He was well aware of what other people believed. And I think that's what we see in the birth narrative. We see the start of that. We see this person who, from the moment of birth, isn't even born where they're supposed to be and is thrust into the world. And I think that's how we're supposed to be honest with you. I think we're supposed to, if we look at it as church, just like baby Jesus, we're supposed to surround it like the Holy Family and all the characters we see who help him along the way. And I think if you're someone who's like barely a believer, you can be like the Magi. Like you can bring gifts to this God and be like, I don't know, really, I bring the, and the gift is yourself, right? I don't know. It seems powerful. I don't know what it is. That's okay. And then you can have true believers like the shepherds who come running for miles because the angels told them, right? All of these characters and all these things we see in church, they surround this story of Christ. And they surround this idea that hope can be born into the world under impossible odds.
Mm.
I mean, we need stories like that, and that's why I'm a narrative theologian, because for me, the story is enough. The story is enough for me. I don't need a lot of the other stuff. It's a very compelling story, and I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I think people don't know this a lot, and this is actually empirically true. Please Google me. We're in the safest time in human history. It's the lowest crime rate in U.S. history. The lowest crime rate nationally. The lowest crime rate. They're over-reporting property crimes, but if you look at violent crimes, robberies, assaults, all that stuff's way down. right? But people stealing bikes are up, yeah, because people are broke. And people like breaking into your car and like taking your radios a little bit up, yeah, because they broke, man. These are property crimes. We're in the safest time in human history. One of the most dangerous times in human history was the time where Jesus was alive. Where it took, where the average lifespan was past 35 years old for most people.
Wow.
I mean, these are frightening times. We're like, so if someone lived to be 50, you're like, yo, they old. You're like 50? Oh man, wow. What can you do? Can you get a new wife? Is she still talking to you? That's crazy. You can't put her on the other side of the house. You know what I mean? Like that was their mentality. Like the old were in the way. And the young, you didn't know if they lived long enough to invest too much in them. It was a rough world full of rough trade. And I think that's what makes Jesus important for us, is that Jesus knows this world. Jesus knows what it's like to miss a meal. Jesus knows what it's like to have like politicians that scare him to his core, but yet he still moves forward with the truth. Jesus knows what it's like to be called a liar, a blasphemer. Jesus knows what it's like to have his friends betray him. I mean, what kind of, there's not a lot of stories of gods like that. You know what I mean? There's a lot in African notions of reality in Yoruba land and other places, right? But around the world, there's not a lot, like, you don't get a lot of like, and then, homie ate some fish. Jesus had a fish fry. Like, you don't get a lot of you don't get a lot of human moment. Right? And so I think Jesus is still a compelling story today, because Jesus is the story we tell about something that isn't like us and we know is more powerful than us, but is the most like us out of all the stories we tell. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So Jesus is relatable, y'all.
Yeah, so for my next question, it's a little bit technical, because I was doing some research on Judaism and how it connected to Christianity. And I just wanted to ask you about who are Jews for Jesus, and does that imply that there are Jews who are inherently against Jesus?
If you ask a Jewish rabbi, they would say these are Christians who do Jewish practices, right? They believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. I know when I went to Beth Yeshua a few times in West Philadelphia, where I grew up, they would take out the Torah and there would be some very traditional stuff and there would be a reading of the Torah, and then all of a sudden, the midrash would sound like, like you were at Koji, and like this little white dude was like, yes, and like the band was going, and like I was like, yo, what's happening here, right? And so it really is it really is Christianity, but it has a lot of very cultural Jewish roots. But this idea that the Jews killed Jesus, that's not actually scripturally true. It's the Roman Empire that kills Jesus, and Jesus dies as a conspiracy between the clergy and state. I don't know why Christians think if they were in charge that they would have done any different. I think the point of the story of Jesus, right? The point of the story of Jesus is that that's about who we are. When love comes to see us and to save us, we murder it. That's not Jesus. Jesus didn't have to die in the same way that Emmett Till didn't have to die. Scapegoat. Humanity needs suffering. Humanity needs it. We just don't understand divinity without it sometimes, without sacrifice and blood. It's strange, right? But I mean, Jesus is more a story about who we are. Jesus comes down, loves us, tries to save us, and we're like, that's cool. We're going to kill you for that. That's not a particular group of people. That could have been anyone. Merry Christmas!
What traditions are practiced today for like Christmas and stuff that are based in like Jesus's life and customs?
I mean, very little, to be real frank with you. 7 fishes, maybe you could say the 7 fish meal you get in some Italian families, or maybe you could say, like, I mean, honestly, Advent, I don't, that's weird. That's some European stuff. Made up. If they just made that up, they were like, we're gonna make something up. And that's Advent. That's one of the things they just made up. Christmas trees, pine trees, okay. What does look like, the gift giving, I think, is something that every indigenous culture did. As much as people want to hit on that and say that that's the most capitalist thing about Christmas, I actually think that if you know anything about first century hospitality culture, you would never go visit royalty without gifts. Nor would you visit just a friend without gifts if you were coming from afar. Just like you wouldn't welcome them without anything, right, to your home. And so that seems pretty legitimate to me, that the gift giving and the gift exchange seems pretty legitimate to me. I would say that what's important for us is to know that our liturgy that we do on Christmas Eve is part of a 1800-year apostolic history. And it's okay for us to focus on the things that we've crafted and we've created and find reverence in those without really going beyond that. But I would say if Jesus saw Christmas today, he would be like, what is that? And he would say, that's your birthday party. And he would be like, oh, that's what you decided to do. Cool.
But isn't it kind of nice? Because Jesus is all about giving to people. And
yeah. Listen, I love the holiday season. I think this is giving. I love Christmas. Listen, if I knew we were going to be wearing like our Santa suits, I would have came a little bit more. I'm wearing my Gothic Santa hat, which I got no respect for, but I'll let that go. But like, I love the season. I love the idea, right? But I would say that very little of what we do is what occurred on that night, because there was no reason to celebrate. This was just a peasant kid. And when he got older, right? When he got older, there's very little holidays around that time, There's not a lot of Jewish holidays around that time. So, I mean, what would he have done? Probably very little. Very little that we do now. But I don't think that takes away from the holiday. I think that's actually, that doesn't do anything to it, because it's important to us, because it's important to the story that we tell ourselves, because it's important to other generations to know that hope can be born into the world. But I don't think it's really based on any traditions more than a few hundred years old.
This is like the bonus question. You didn't know a question. You didn't know this, but where or what is the present? Like,
so what is the gift?
Yeah, what's the gift of Christmas? The wreath? Is it the ones under the tree? Is it some other theological thingy, bobber? What is it?
Bobber.
No, I think the gift of Christmas is the fact that God was born into the world, and that's what we celebrate. The gift is salvation came into the world, and the gift is that salvation came into the world on a night when no one thought it would, just like maybe this Christmas, when everything seemed like, and like, hope was born into the world without nowhere to sleep. Hope was born into the world houseless. Hope was born into the world to an unwed teenage mother. I mean, it's amazing. That's amazing, right? And so that's the gift. The gift is that even on your worst Christmas, don't worry. Hope might be being born into the world.
As deep as that was, it was a very beautiful answer. I'm going to take a page out of what you taught us, and I'm going to disagree with you.
Good stuff.
3, 2, 1. Take it away, children's church players. 3, 2, 1. Take it away, children's church players.
But
I'm gonna be looking stressed like I just lost my job.
Record again now.
That's it. We're done. We found the
this
Christmas gift.
was bad.
Whoa.
But hope you liked it. Come back next year. Hope we still have our job, bro.
Man, I don't know. I really thought that it was a real thing. I thought that it was like a gift. I thought I was gonna get a present.
But it's in our hearts.
My heart, that's all phony.
No, it's better that it's in your heart.
I
Anyways,
was so
kids,
hard.
listen to me. Don't care about this